Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Hey, that is 3 times that I've warned you that there are going to be spoilers in this episode. Because for one, we get to see Chetney's fate as he escapes from this dire situation. We get to finally find out who JH is. And we get to see the girls go on their date with the ogre named Pretty. You will recall that the last episode ended with a stressful situation of Travis's character Chetney barreling through a window while invisible, trying to escape from the commissioner, the business commissioner, in the Moon Tower. Because Travis had found a secret door and found a bunch of shady stuff going on. And then when he got discovered, mate, he just had to bolt. And that's where this episode picks up. Picture this. So it is bucketing down rain outside, and Chetney is invisible, trying to make his escape from the commissioner's office. The commissioner goes to the newly broken window and points at him and says, "Stop, thief, I'm gonna come find you." And he starts giving chase, because even though Travis's character Chetney is invisible, it's raining, right? And then in the rain, you can see the silhouette. So he gets perceived and he's being chased. Now, gnomes only have 25 feet of movement. So that means this commissioner, who is a larger humanoid creature, is gaining on him. He's gonna get caught. So this chase scene kind of careens past the party on a kind of perpendicular angle. Now Imogen approaches this chase scene and casts Calm Emotions on the commissioner. Now this spell has a feature that lets her cause the target to be indifferent to a creature of her choice. Of course, she goes, "Commissioner, you are now no longer angry at Chetney." This doesn't mean the commissioner has forgotten why he was chasing Chetney or what happened, or is necessarily forgiving Chetney for burgling him, but he is just not angry with Chetney anymore. So Chetney, invisible, laying flat on the ground, just kind of takes this in a weird direction. And this line is going to direct a lot of the energy in this episode. Chetney says, "I died in that room. Let me be free," while he's invisible on the ground, and then he runs away, because he's clearly trying to set this up to say, hey, it wasn't an invisible gnome, it was a ghost, okay? You've got ghosts in your situation. And of course, if you're talking about ghosts, that's going to bring Laudna into the action. So Laudna uses her form of dread and her unsettling presence, both the ability and her natural spookiness. She uses these features to spook the commissioner to the point where he drops his weapon and flees. At some point, I think even Dorian comes up behind her while she's being all spooky and scary and levitates with her so that she flies 3 feet off the ground. Oh my god, she's so scary. So the weapon that drops to the ground from this commissioner seems to be ceremonial, like that he grabbed off the wall. So it seems to me that maybe he's not necessarily the combat threat that he was presenting himself as. And as a direct result of the party convincing the commissioner that there are ghosts and this whole place is haunted, over the course of the episode, we hear more and more rumors about ghosts and spooky things around the Mirror Towers and around the Moon Tower. The party heads away from the Mirror Tower district so they can swap notes and kind of reconvene, Chetney relays all the information that he found about the map that he found, and he found a secret door, and he overheard some spooky stuff between someone named Ira and the commissioner. But he also relays the name that he read in that ledger that he found, the Nightmare King. Spooky, spooky, spooky stuff. So Fern is from the Feywild. She's a fawn, so Matt gives her the opportunity to roll a history check. And she rolls pretty well, gets a 21. And with this roll, yeah, Fern, you've heard of the Nightmare King. And Fern even says, "Oh, he's terrible. Just an absolute nightmare." And here, the Campaign 3 party does one of their patented 3-way splits. They split the party in 3 ways, okay? So we've got 3 groups. Now, the first group I'm going to call the Date Squad. This is Fresh Cut Grass, and then Laudna, Fern, and Imogen, okay? This is the group that's going to go on the date with Pretty, the ogre from the pub earlier. And the reason Fresh Cut Grass is included in this group is because, hey, he's never seen a date before, and they want to give him the opportunity to see all that human experience. The second group that splits off is something I'm going to call the Patrol Boys, right? This is Chetney, Dorian, and Aurum. Now, this group is worried about this situation at the Mirror Tower kind of evaporating, like this opportunity. So they want to stick around here and make sure that the party can still sneak back into the Moon Tower later on the night. They're just going to keep an eye on stuff. And the last group I'm going to call Ashton, because Ashton is going to go on a private fact-finding mission. And this is the real juice, my friend. He is going to secretly investigate the JH initials. And I promise you, we're going to get answers about JH in this episode. Over on my Discord, as we were watching this live, Adam even pointed out that if this chase kind of led through the streets, like, hey, is Travis going to get stabbed in an alleyway again? Is this character going to die like Bertrand? Oh. So in the chronological list of events that happened during this session, they didn't tell each of these three storylines packaged together in a whole thing. They were actually kind of cutting between them and we got bits and bobs. We're not going to do that. We're just going to package this whole thing together. So all of the patrol boys, all the date squad, and all of Ashton, right? But I want you to know that in the actual episode, every time they cut away from the date scene, people on my Discord were going, hey, go back to the date. It was so fun. It was so fun. Our first group are the patrol boys. Remember, they are hanging around the mirror towers just to keep an eye on what's going on. But it actually starts off with Chetney briefly accompanying the date squad, right? Because he is handing over some of the stuff that he found on his solo expedition. He hands over like the map and the journal that he found and some of the money. He gives all that stuff to Imogen. On the way back, he actually teases them that, hey, I'm going alone. Who knows if I'll die on this solo journey. Travis is such a troll. He's such a troll. Like, even if this is Travis's forever character, he's still teasing like it's a temporary character. In fact, we actually end up with a little kind of duet scene where it's just Chetney and Dorian while Orem's off, keeping watch or something. And Chetney says, do you ever think about death? My death or death in the grand scheme of things? It's just like, oh, Travis, why are you thinking about death? But there is a lovely moment that's worth mentioning about the relationship between these two characters, because you'll remember that they mainly fight a lot, these two characters, Chetney and Dorian, but they've kind of made up. Dorian says, you do have friends, right? Like a group of friends? And Chetney says, I do now. Yes, you do. And he puts his hand on his shoulder. It's so lovely. So anyway, also around the moon tower, this group learns, the patrol boys learn that this commissioner was so spooked by this ghost situation that he is going to move his office to a different office in the morning. And that's a sure sign that if the party really wants to find out what's going on, they're going to have to do it before this transfer of office happens. Let's cut to Team Ashton. Now this is just Ashton by himself, and he's investigating the initials of JH. You'll recall earlier in another episode, he received a letter at his home. I believe it was signed by someone named JH, but he tried to keep this to himself. Now, he is heading to that manor. He goes to Hexham Manor, which is owned by Gianna Hexham. This is JH. It's not Jared. It's Gianna. So he knocks on the door to this manor and he says, nobody's here. And a female elf answers the door. She looks equivalent in human years. She looks like she's 60 years old, which must mean for an elf age, she's very, very old. She says, well, it took you long enough. At this point, the cast of Critical Role take their break. And you know what that means? They take a break. We take a break. Hey, I would love you to stop by my Discord. It's matthewperkins.net/Discord, because over there, we're doing live watches of these episodes, watch parties as they air live on Twitch. Now, I know you could just go and chat on the actual Critical Role Twitch chat, but that goes so fast. I can't keep up with it. You probably can't keep up with it. But there's only like 20 people over on my Discord watching this thing live, and you can trade stories, you can share memes, you can actually follow what people are chatting about, and it's really fun. I don't know. Come hang out with me and my mates. It's fun. So I'm going to read from my notes here, because this is exactly what JH says to Ashton. So, Mr. Nobody, I had an idea. As you get closer to paying off your debt, if this goes well, I might even consider wiping the remainder. I am currently in a deep wager with a rival of mine, a Mr. Evan Heidriger, owner of the Twilight Mirror Museum in Hartmore Hamlet. After a failed burglary of my home, of which you are very aware, Ashton, Evan has teased me and lauded his impenetrable security in front of me, and he's engaged in a wager with me for one of his prized items if some adventurers in my employ might be able to bypass his security and prove the item's acquisition. Now, from my understanding of this quest that Ashton has just been given to go and rob this museum as part of a wager, my understanding is that it would actually be a race between two rival parties, because there is another party, not just the Critical Role cast, that is going to be sponsored by someone named Mistress Estrus Shabanis, which sounds like just such a fake name. Sounds like a fake name made by a drunk person. Mistress Estrus Sabanis. So the idea is these two parties are going to compete to see which one can steal this item from the museum first. But Ashton didn't come here just because of the letter or just because he was trying to see if he could get a quest. He came here because JH, those were the initials written on the crate that Dorian's brother is accused of stealing. The reason that Dorian's brother has this 20,000 gold piece bounty on his head. So Ashton mentions this situation with Dorian's brother to JH. And Ashton even says, look, I think the person you suspect of committing this crime is the wrong person. And I'm going to try and find a way to exonerate Dorian's brother. And following the trend of spilling beans, I guess, Ashton also mentions their run-in with the business commissioner this very night. And JH warns Ashton, hey, be careful. The business commissioner is very well connected and he's very powerful politically. I can't say it. But especially if this business commissioner is involved in some kind of dark magical arts with this secret stuff that he's doing with the Ira person. Hey, dark stuff is going around in this city, and JH has noticed, and her friends have noticed, and they've been talking about the dark turn that the city has taken. Hey, does this kind of remind anybody of Bloodborne? You know, like Yharnam and the old blood and this curse that's fallen along the whole city? I don't know. I get Bloodborne vibes from this. Let's cut to the date squad. Oh, I'm so excited about this date. I'm so excited. On the way to the date, Laudna's looking around for some flowers to give to Pretty, but she can't really find any, you know, just walking around the street, but she finds a lot of trash and she finds a bunch of like torn up fabric and a broken tankard and stuff and tries to craft something out of it, but she rolls a natural 1. And this is the gift that they're going to give to Pretty. So they get to the Soot and Swill Inn. Or tavern, I can't remember. Now this place is popping off. It is very busy inside. The girls in Fresh Cut Grass enter and they see Pretty, the ogre, wearing a itty bitty little bow tie, sitting alone at a table with 3 boxes laid out in front of him. Now when the girls enter, he yells out, "Told you so," to some other patrons, and these other patrons were clearly gambling on whether or not the girls would show up. They hand over their winnings to each other. It's quite nice. So Pretty gives these gifts to the girls. To Imogen, gets a cauliflower. To Laudna, gets an artichoke. And to Fern, gets a very rare mutated double pumpkin. And Fern even like puts the pumpkin, skewers it on one of her horns, which is lovely. My favourite moment of the whole episode here, Laudna says, well, we got to use something too. And then Marisha says, okay, I pull out the tankard filled with trash. And Matt just says, it's real rough, guys. I don't know what to say. And Pretty, being so polite, says thank you and puts it on the mantle. Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. At this point in the dinner date, we cut back to one of those other scenes that was happening. But when we came back to it, we'd done a bit of a time skip and we cut to the party walking out of the Dreamscape Theatre, the 3 girls, Pretty and Fresh Cut Grass. They just seem some kind of play, and it's kind of interesting that Pretty is a patron of the arts. He seems to really know his stuff about literature and theatre, and it's kind of lovely. But here is the most shocking part in the whole episode. Pretty breaks up with the girls. He even says to them, "This has been an unexpected pleasure, but I just get the impression that we are very different kinds of people." And here's my Discord being heartbroken through this whole scene. "I just think the 3 of you have a lot of the world left to see, and I don't know. You're wonderful just the way you are, but it's not meant to be." And Laudna says, "You're such a good-hearted ogre. Never settle." "I won't." And as he kind of leaves to go back to his apartment to read his favourite novel, Laudna says, "Who could have guessed that we would be the ones left in the rain?" And Imogen says, "Well, I could have guessed. I can read minds." So after their 3 separate storylines, the party said they were going to reconvene at the Spire by Fire Tavern, where we are going to do some planning before our break-in back into the Moon Tower. At the pub, being a very good Dungeons & Dragons player, Taliesin shares his secrets. Hey, if you want to be a good D&D player, share your secrets, okay? They're no use if you just keep them to yourself. And here, he goes into deeper detail about the job and his injuries. He says about the nobodies, "Back in Bassaris, I had a bunch of people that I came up with in a state home called the Greymore State Home. A bunch of kids took off and formed a gang. We all got work from Milo here, and this job was just like all the other jobs until it wasn't. Now, this lady, JH, lives in a big house, and we were on the top floor, and she walked in on us trashing her office. I don't know what happened after that, because I got hit by a magical bolt, and I was blasted through a window, and I dropped 3 or more stories down to the ground. Next thing I know, they dragged my mangled body back to my house, and Milo had done their best in putting me back together without knowing any healing spells. They used some weird chaos fairy magic BS, and it turned out fine. The gold grafted to me is the money that I was meant to be paid for the gig, and this wound here is just slag glass. Fresh Cut Grass says, "Oh, you didn't deserve that, Ashton." And Ashton says, "Nobody deserves anything." From here, the party finished their drinks, and it's time to do their second break and enter of the night. They're going to break back into the moon tower. Here we go. So they stealth back to the mirror towers. They've got a few obstacles here because there are guards moving around. They're going to have to climb over a wall into the mirror tower district, the courtyard, and they're going to have to make their way to the moon tower and climb in through the window back into the office without getting seen. So they roll stealth. And they roll bad. They roll pretty badly. A perimeter guard notices them and starts approaching. So the party start off by pretending to be drunk, and they roll deception and say, "Oh, we're just here looking for ghosts. We heard that there are going to be ghosts here." And they kind of trade ghost stories with this guard. Now, while this is happening, Laudna, being creepy, casts Silent Image to make the appearance, this apparition of like a spectral face coming out of the wall and doing, a haunted house grab at the guard. Now the guard is going to roll his ability check. I don't know what you have to roll to try and see through an illusion, maybe some perception or just intelligence, but he rolls a 1, so it doesn't matter what he rolled. And he gets so spooked that he flees. Laudna also does the creepy voices in his head. Aurum uses his boots of jumping and springing and spriting and singing to jump 10 feet on top of the wall, and he gets a vantage point of all the other guards in the area. And he waits for the moment and lets the party up, and they all clamber over. For their climb over, of course, they have to roll another stealth check, and the party rolls quite badly once again. So they didn't roll badly enough to get spotted outright, but there's a guard that's got suspicions and kind of comes over to inspect what's happening. The party hide, and they do their old trick. Laudna summons the image, does the silent image of a spooky girl with hair over her face in the distance, and the guard kind of approaches. And then the spooky girl image lifts her face and the jaw is missing and the eyes are black and she points it and screams, "Ah!" Now this guard rolls so badly on his ability to see through the illusion that he just passes out. So now the party are able to making their way to the commissioner's office in the broken window. Imogen opens up her mind to see if there's anybody inside, but she doesn't detect any thoughts in that room. So they climb through the window and they see that it has been kind of tidied up a bit. Like if you could imagine there was like fantasy police tape everywhere, right? People have investigated it and taken all the things that were loose off the desk. And Chetney has the good brain power to check the secret compartment that he found in the desk. This is where the lever is that opens the secret door behind the bookcase. And he decides to go, I'm going to double check for traps there. And he finds a trap that hadn't been activated earlier. Clearly this has been set as they've left the office vacant. Travis even asked Matt, "These are wooden drawers, right?" Matt goes, "Yes." "Well, these won't stop a man like me." And he pulls out a wood drill because he's a woodworker, right? And hey, hold on to your dice because things are about to get really, really full on, all right? So Chetney disarms the trap and he opens the secret door and then he sneaks down. Okay, he sneaks down that dark, dark hallway and he's listening and he hears humming. And he hears the occasional crackle of electricity, arcing energy. And he hears a voice say, "Don't worry, my pets. As much as I'm loath to leave my setup, let's see how much we can get done before we're forced to uproot our operation. I do hate packing." Now, Chetney starts to sneak down this secret passage. He rolls a 19 on his perception, which is very good. And he sees this pulsing blue light. but it stops. There are lanterns set against the walls of this stone chamber, and it looks almost like a prison because on the back walls he can see metal bars. But there's also, very close to the door where he's approaching, there's a metallic contraption. It's 10 feet tall and it's glowing with tubes and pulsing with light. And he sees a figure walk towards a central table covered in alchemical knickknacks and doodads. This is a humanoid creature, 7 foot tall, in a black coat with tails on the coat, a hairless head. Skin is pale. Wait, is this just me? Is this just a tall version of me? Skin is pale, but jaundiced yellow skin and long curved ears. Longer ears than an elf, right? Very strange. And he hears Gurge's voice in the distance. What are you planning? Well, don't worry, friend. You have a gift which you hoard so selfishly. I want to share your gift with the people. The figure walks back to the contraption that Gurge is near, holding an odd blue stone. What do you think, people? Broomstone? Broomstone, maybe? Holding an odd blue stone, and Chetney backs off a bit. This person does something with the stone and the machine and activates it, and we see that pulsing light again, right? Then the figure returns back to the desk. Chetney uses this as an opportunity to sneak a little bit closer to the door and peeks through and is able to see Gurge in the distance, looking very haggard in one of the cells. Now, Chetney communicates back to the party. He's like, hey, maybe we should get down there and start, doing some damage. And Matt is vocal and gives the party an opportunity to cast their pre-combat spells. Hey, do you want to cast Mage Armor? Fern, do you want to bring out Mister? And it is really concerning whenever the Dungeon Master is just being so clear about trying to help the party to succeed like this. This makes me think that they are in trouble. They sneak down the stairs as a group. And this creature that's sitting on a stool by this alchemical table turns around and they see a completely bald head, no eyebrows, no nose, and then a smile that goes up like a Chelsea smile, pointed like a jack-o'-lantern, and then green glowing eyes. And this creature says to them, well, I wasn't expecting guests, but the night seems to be getting interesting, doesn't it? And that's where the episode ends. Hey, if you want to watch it live with me and all the other people that are appearing in this video, swing by Discord, matthewperkins.net/Discord. I'd really appreciate it if you could like this video and leave a comment with what you thought of the episode. Down here, these are my patrons. Thank you so much, patrons. And if you look up here to the right, you are going to see another video that YouTube thinks you would really like. Is it right? Is it wrong? Click that video. You prove it right or wrong. I don't care. You do you. You have a lovely time. Bye.